Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim, and we talk about horror movies on this show. And this is actually our monthly voting episode, in which the film was selected and voted for by our patrons who voted. The new vote is up as well. I will mention at the end of the episode, I'll announce what the new vote is. Well, I say announce, I mean, if you're on the Patreon, you've already seen what the voting options are. But for anyone not aware, I will announce at the end of the video. But yeah, so the vote for this month's bonus episode for July's was summer themed, and it was all summer movies. And the one that the film that won was I Know What You Did Last Summer, which of course was a 90s slasher movie.
Boy, was it ever 90s.
Yeah, it was made in 1997. It was basically, Scream was successful, let's quickly churn out some horror movies. And this is kind of the main product of Scream. It's the first thing that comes to mind when you think, oh, what movies got made because of Scream? I Know What You Did Last Summer. That said, it was only a year later, so arguably they went into production quite quick. However, I believe Scream 2 also came out in 1997, so even Scream 2 got churned out pretty quick. Both of which starred Sarah Michelle Gellar, of course, who you may know, she was on the hit film Cruel Intentions.
Sure.
So, this is going to be I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think I'll just give a spoiler warning just now. I don't feel like this is worth talking without spoilers. So full spoilers for I Know What You Did Last Summer. So what was the main gist of the film then, Tim? It's basically a group of high school students. None of them look like high school students, of course, but a group of high school students, two couples. You get Sarah Michelle Gellar and Ryan Phillippe, who are like the sort of the... It wasn't prom. Something queen. Town queen. Whatever their queen's called. It wasn't homecoming, wasn't prom.
Was it like Croaker Queen or something like that? I
don't know. July 4th Queen. They got the crown on July 4th, so I'm calling it July 4th Queen. Yeah, so he's like the jock and she's that. And Jennifer Love Hewitt, who's obviously the final girl, is like the moral character, I guess. That's her character. Like, that's basically what her character is.
She seems to be the only one with any type of conscience.
I mean, she's not even prudish, like, because she's not like... I vaguely remember Scary Movie like making fun of her and saying she was like a real prude and didn't want to have sex, but she actually does. She seems fairly normal, honestly.
Yeah.
She's the one with the conscience who's still somehow annoying. But anyway, and she's dating Freddie Prinze Jr., who's like the artsy fartsy guy who's going to go be like a slam poet or something. Like, that's is it philosophy, I think, was the thing. But there was a lot of jokes about him going off, because they're all going off to college after this summer, and they're all talking about their future. Gellar wants to be an actress, Phillippe wants to play in a football team, and you know, look, they've all got their plans, and they all feel like they're going to fail miserably. But yeah, so they're celebrating. Sarah Michelle Gellar wins her crown. They go to the beach on their own, sort of secluded. When they're driving back, they hit someone, and scared, they decide to dump the body in the water rather than face the penalties, because some of them are drinking and they think that they're screwed if they go to the police.
Right.
So they dump the body, and 1 year later, they all end up coming home, for the summer, for July 4th, that kind of time. Oh, to be fair, it's only one of them. We actually found out 3 of them are still living there. So it's only the one that's actually came home. But still, same difference. So yeah, Jennifer Love Hewitt comes home, and she gets a note saying, "You guessed it, I know what you did last summer." And from there, the killer torments them, and then eventually wants to kill them on July 4th, which is what the film's building up to. That's kind of the big climax, is on July 4th. So that's the gist of the movie. We'll go into more details, of course, as we talk about it. Tim, I always ask the question. I'll ask it once more. And we've both seen this before, obviously, a long time ago. It's been a long, long time since I've seen it last. The first time I saw this, if I recall, it was one of the first sort of new releases I saw as a horror movie. You know, because I was just at that age, I was getting into it. Yeah. And I believe I saw this on pay-per-view. Back when, getting movies early on pay-per-view. Obviously now it's just all on demand, but back when that was a thing on cable, I remember paying I remember my parents paying the whatever the price was for a movie back then. So Tim,
Yeah.
did it hold up? Did you enjoy I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Well, like you said, I feel like it's always kind of paired with Scream. They're both kind of the big, 90s teen slasher flicks. And I feel like lately there's been a little bit of a Scream renaissance. I've heard people on podcasts and websites and stuff kind of do retrospectives on it and talk about how it's really cool meta, horror movie. And it's really good. And I haven't seen this probably since the 90s maybe. So I was kind of maybe like a little excited for it. I was like, oh, like maybe it holds up as well.
Trip down memory lane, yeah. It's worth mentioning, you mentioned Scream there. It is worth mentioning that we haven't actually done that series on the show yet, and we will at some point, obviously. But yeah, it's weird. We ended up doing this before Scream. I don't know how that happened, but here we are.
But this movie definitely does not hold up well. It was pretty bad. But I will say that I did have a little bit of fun with it. Not in the way that the movie intended, but there was actually I'd say quite a bit of moments where I laughed at how bad it was. Particularly with Ryan Phillippe's character, who is maybe like one of the least subtle like actors I've seen in a while. Like everything sets him off. Like he instantly goes like from 0 to 60 like at the drop of a hat.
I'm going to dispute you slightly here, Tim.
Okay.
You're saying Ryan Phillippe is one of the most obvious actors you've seen, but honestly, Tim,
yeah,
I think he is beaten in this very movie. Freddie Prinze Jr. is awful in this.
Well, all right, no, he's definitely awful. I'll admit that. I just mean I like with Ryan Phillippe's character how like he's just always so angry. Like any little thing, he just starts screaming. That's what I meant more than like just him being awful.
Well, no, but even in terms of being obvious, like there's a point in the movie where they're trying to make you think Freddie Prinze Jr. might be the killer, and he keeps speaking really suspiciously. Like he keeps saying things like, "How do you know that?" And it's like it's so like there's just nothing to it. It's so not subtle in any way. To the point where I do actually like if I was your friend right now, I would just assume you were the killer right now because you're acting so weird.
For sure.
But yeah, the acting's pretty rough.
Yeah, and you were mentioning the plot line. When you have that basic kind of plot line, I don't think that that's a bad idea for a slasher movie. It actually kind of could have been, it probably still would have been a little cheesy. But
how many 80s slasher movies started with a flashback to like a kid being teased at school, and that was the setup for the revenge later? So
exactly. So not a bad premise, but man, this plot gets really convoluted. Like I feel like especially by the end, it's like, this seems way too needlessly complicated.
They wanted their twist, and it doesn't really feel like a twist when it happens. It's just kind of like, okay, I guess. But they really wanted that. Oh, it wasn't who we thought it was the whole time. And this is the annoying thing. It's really obvious that it's not who they thought it was the whole time, and it's really obvious it's not Freddie Prinze Jr. because every time you see a glimpse of the killer, he's very clearly middle-aged every single time. And that's kind of part of like just from a logistic point of view where this movie really falls apart. Is I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it falls apart, but one of the main ones is the entire plot and the mystery of who the killer is relies on that none of these four characters ever looked at the guy's face when they were dumping his body.
Right.
Somehow, like it's not like he was wearing a mask. He had a hat on. The hat does not cover the face. This is stupid, right? This relies on them not seeing his face, at least. And I get that maybe you wouldn't have like a firm detail of him, but you would know the difference between middle-aged man and someone who's your own age.
And I mean, to be fair, maybe his face might have been like a little bloodied or whatever from the car wreck, but still, Jennifer Love Hewitt's character, she does mention that she knows his name because she heard about it on a news report after the accident. But I don't know if she's watching the news or reading a newspaper, but I'm sure they had some type of picture to accompany the story. Like she didn't see it there.
Yeah.
or at least that didn't pique her interest to do a little more research at that point.
Yeah, of the young guy who they didn't actually hit, yes, but who showed up dead, and they thought was the victim. Because the whole plot is that the guy they knocked down, the old guy, was actually already out there killing someone else. He was killing the guy who was driving a year before, who got his daughter killed, and he blamed him. So he killed this guy, and everyone in the movie thinks that's who they knocked down, but they didn't really. They knocked down his killer, and the killer is the one who's coming back a year later because he didn't actually kill him. He was still alive. That's your plot.
Which is so stupid. It's like, why? I mean, I guess like you said, they want to have that twist, that reveal, but there's just so many like weird. Like it just feels needless.
Here's the thing: it doesn't need to be a twist. It doesn't like they knock someone down, they leave him for dead. He doesn't actually die. He comes back for revenge. Nice and simple. But you get a feeling that they wanted the investigative angle. They wanted the whodunit. When really no one cares. Who cares what the guy's name is? You knocked him down and left him for dead. We don't need to know his name. He's coming for you. But no, they wanted them investigating. They wanted the scene where she opens the ancient-looking laptop and like Googles, but not really Googles, and gets up information, and they go out to investigate and talk to the guy's sister, and but yeah, the plot's convoluted. I concur with these thoughts. Yeah, acting's pretty bad, and it's not that necessarily all of them are bad actors, although Freddie Prinze Jr., I'm pretty convinced, is just terrible. Because obviously I've seen some of them in other things. Admittedly, I don't know if I've ever seen Jennifer Love Hewitt be good in something, but I've not really seen a lot of what she's in.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is, what is that big teen movie everyone like? Can't Hardly Wait? Big kind of like party comedy movie.
I have no idea what you're talking about, so...
Yeah, I mean, might be a little bit. I mean, I'm only a few years older than you, but I think like when I was in high school, that was kind of like the big, kind of like teen comedy that a lot of people liked. I
don't recall it. Obviously, she was on Ghost Whisperer for however many years, but I never watched that. I have no idea if she was any good in that. Sarah Michelle Gellar, of course, very good. She's been in a lot of stuff. She was in the hit film The Grudge, for example.
I think we mentioned that last time when we reviewed The Grudge, that it's just probably because we're both big Buffy fans, but I always get like happy just to see her on screen or in anything.
All right, so let's talk about these characters and why they're really annoying people, and why I don't care about any of the stories.
Okay.
So they set up this whole thing where she wants to be an actress, right? And Phillippe wants to be like a sportsman.
Sportsman, yes.
That was a weird way of saying that.
I believe at one point Sarah Michelle Gellar says that he's going to be a quarterback for the Steelers. I think she says.
Then I think he corrects her and picks a different team.
Yeah, Cowboys maybe. Forget.
Yeah. And then Freddie Prinze Jr. wants to go to college, but do his like slam poetry or whatever artsy fartsy snobby pretentious bullshit he wants to do, and they all fail basically. They all, like, he just ends up being a fisherman. Gellar ends up just working at the store that her family owns with her sister, and Philippe's family's just rich, so he's just getting drunk at his mansion basically. Up to.
If anything, if that the slasher guy, really, this could have been the best revenge for him, just watching these people's dreams die. Like, he should have like left them alive to just rot in this small town amounting to nothing. And that would have been far better.
And in fact, going through this experience is what puts Jennifer Love Hewitt and Freddie Prinze Jr. back on track for their lives. Because when we see them at the end, they're doing fine. Like, they're back, they're happy again. They've got over it. The guilt's gone because it turns out they didn't actually kill anyone. Although he still made the choice to try and dump his body in the river and get away with it. You should still feel guilty about that.
Well, it's kind of funny because basically their ending sentiment is kind of like, we didn't kill an innocent man, we just killed an awful man. And then it's like everything is all better. And
don't get me started, because obviously we end with one of those like cheesy kind of like cliffhangers where, oh no, the killer's still there, he's coming for her. I have no idea if the sequel addresses that scene or if it just ignores it. I cannot remember.
I know I saw it, but I don't remember at all.
We'll have to do it at some point. I still know what
Do
you
we
did
have
last
to?
summer or something. Yeah, there's something we're going to have to do. I feel like we
Okay.
have to.
Yeah.
Well, that isn't complete. I've never seen the direct-to-video third movie. Maybe we could do that as well and wrap
I
up the
didn't realize
trilogy.
there was a third one. Jeez.
It's called I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh, that sounds kind of sweet.
So yeah, I mean that setup's okay. It's a little bit cheesy that all three of them have their dreams kind of like completely obliterated, but whatever. But here's the problem. They all have these weird things. Like Freddie Prinze Jr. is really awkward every time he's talking to them, and he still wants to be with Jennifer Love Hewitt, and she's like, no, we're done because we murdered someone together, and I feel weird about that. And he sounds like a stalker every time he speaks. Ryan Phillippe, as you said, gets angry out of nowhere. I laughed out loud when it's after Jennifer Love Hewitt has like the body and all the bugs and crabs and stuff in her car,
right.
and she lifts up the trunk and it's all there, and she runs in and she's like, oh, this was in the car, and it's immediately after this they just go over to Freddie Prinze Jr. and Ryan Phillippe just goes up and punches him and starts accusing him of being the killer out of nowhere, and I'm like, what do you have to actually back this up? You are literally just going on a whim,
Yeah.
and throwing punches as a result of it.
It's not the first time that he did that either. Earlier in the movie, they go to see Max.
Big Bang Theory.
And yeah, when like he's kind of the first lead they have, and he just like goes and like smashes his head against a block of ice, like without even asking him any questions or anything.
Who, by the way, has not aged that much in the last 20 years.
No, not really.
He looks pretty. Yeah, he looks the same.
Huh.
But here's a question: why did the killer even bother killing him? Well,
No idea.
The first death scene in the movie is that he kills Big Bang Theory, and I'm like, what? I mean, I know he gets his hook from there, but why did he have to kill him? He had the hook. We already see that he took the hook away, and even then, the guy who's a killer's a fisherman. Surely he has his own goddamn hooks. Why is he going after Big Bang Theory? It's almost like, oh wait, we need a kill earlier on in the movie because none of the kills actually happen until the last act. We need to get some more kills going.
Yeah.
Let's just pick a random character. Oh, he'll do.
Yeah, there's absolutely no motivation. I mean, I guess you could probably say something like, oh, well, technically he did end up driving by that night as well, but it's not like he actually did anything or knew about anything.
No, he drove past. They made up an excuse for why the car stopped, and he went about his business. He is completely innocent. He's still an asshole. Don't get me wrong. Every time we see him, he's been a dickhead, but he does nothing wrong compared, in correlation to the attempted or almost killing of fisherman bad guy McPherson.
Yeah, and just to jump back to a little bit earlier, well, not earlier in the movie, but earlier when you were talking about there's a scene with his body, ends up being in the trunk filled with crabs and everything, and then
well, no, it's not his body. It's not his body. He didn't die. That's the killer.
that was the killer in the trunk.
Oh no, I thought that's what you meant. Oh, what you said Max is in the trunk?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, right then. No, I just missed. That's misunderstood what you said. I mean, can go about your business, Tim. Go about your business.
So yeah, this is just one of like a couple of scenes where the killer seems to be able to do this impossible thing where he can very quickly like hide any type of evidence.
Yeah, that
of his
trunk
presence
was crawling with various animals.
Yeah,
and yet they go out there and it looks like it's just been cleaned. Like at the. Like they've went to a car wash and they've had a valet, and like the whole service has been done, and it's been hoovered, vacuumed inside the trunk, and everything's really clean. And it's like, yeah, piss off.
There's no way. And then like later in the movie when Ryan Phillippe's character dies, and he's literally just like above on the balcony where like everyone else is below, so it can't take people that long to get up there. And then when they get up there, his body and like no traces of blood or anything there's like no evidence whatsoever.
None. Go back to the characters and why they're stupid.
Right.
Jennifer Love Hewitt is extremely annoying because she is just constantly whining about doing the right thing, which should be endearing. We should side with her, but she's a really annoying final girl, a really annoying protagonist, because like when she comes home and her mother's like, "Oh, what's wrong with you? Like, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to. What happened to my daughter?" And she's just being mopey. She's just being moody.
Do you get the sense that she literally has been like that every day since this happened? Because
Yes.
at the beginning, when we see her in college, her roommate's kind of like, "Hey, what's going on?" She's less like, nothing. Go home."
So, so she's unlikable. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar, who by the way was in a lot of hit things over the years. She was in the hit film Simply Irresistible. Um, they try and actually set this thing up where we are supposed to care about her hair.
Oh, right, yeah.
Like they set up this thing at the start where she's winning the crowd and like our friends are up in the balcony and they're talking about how good her hair is and how much work she puts into it. And then later on, our sister, who by the way, our sister's also a complete bitch, who does nothing but put her down every chance she gets. It's like she's jealous that her sister's like the prom queen, and she's every chance like, "Oh, you amounted to nothing. Now you work for me, you little bitch." And that's how she feels every time she's on screen. And it's like, wait, is she supposed to be like more likable? Because she ain't. But like she makes a dig about her hair and how sad she is because of her hair, and like so she goes to sleep and she wakes up and the killer snuck in her room and cut chunks of her hair out, and she gets all upset and starts screaming because of it. Now, don't get me wrong, that scene works on its own in a vacuum because no, he still snuck in the room and did something while you were asleep. That's creepy on its own. Like that idea on its own is fine. But they actually went out the way to set up the idea that she cares about her hair more than other people, so this matters more. And while normally I would applaud you for trying to make me care about X element before you do something to it, it still feels stupid because it's her hair. You try to make me care about her hair.
Yeah.
Almost as if it was a character in and of itself.
And also, it's not like he really did that much damage. Like, he didn't shave half her head or something. Like, she had pretty long hair, and then he kind of cut like a good chunk out of one side. But then she just goes and gets like a really nice short haircut.
Yeah, she's at the parade the next day because she has to go and like give the crown to the new queen at the new ceremony, and she's in the parade, she's on the float, and she's just got like a new haircut, and it looks perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And it's like literally nothing of consequence happened outside of the actual creepiness of him sneaking in the room. Bollocks. Of course, Ryan Phillippe gets knocked down in a car at one point, which sure. Which is kind of a big part of the problem with the movie, just in terms of pacing, is that the middle of the movie, the killer is just kind of messing with them, and there's really no because we feel like, okay, it's very clear that if he's going to kill anyone, it's going to be on July 4th. And everything before then, it just kind of feels like, nah, he's just kind of wasting time. Except Max, who he just kills for whatever reason. That's a Big Bang Theory, just in case you've forgotten his name, which is fair. And I don't know. And by the way, the kills themselves are really weak. They're really neutered.
Yeah, they always seem to cut away. There's like almost no gore in this movie.
It's not even like a gore. It's like even cutting away can be fine, like if it feels visceral, but it doesn't. It feels like there's no momentum to his swings. He's got his hook and he's just kind of like, it feels lacking urgency, and it feels lacking that visceral kind of like, see if it cut to like it's like the sound effect and the speed just isn't there to make it feel like there's enough momentum in it.
Oh, sure.
Then, it's like see if it if it was like a sort of right, and then it cut to like say the victim's feet shaking and then stopping and dying. It can still be quite effective without showing blood, without like, go back to Texas Chainsaw 1. Like, no blood in that movie, hardly none, and yet it feels visceral because there's like a realism to it. There's like an actual feeling of life escaping a body, whereas here it really feels like someone's just pretending to swing at someone, and it just there's no bite to it. It feels really bad. And all of the deaths feel that way. None of them are fun. None of them are shocking or brutal or anything. They feel like watered down Hollywood. Oh, this is safe for the teens.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'm pretty sure this was still R-rated, and I'm really surprised. I guess a few F-bombs do that for you.
Yeah.
Let me check. I think it was. I'm on the IMDb's. Right. Oh my god, that's a long list. Yeah, R-rated.
Wow, but yeah, that's pretty surprising.
That is really surprising because it is very low. I feel like today, if
That could be PG-13.
yeah, all the F bombs. I feel like if they just cut down the F bombs to the one, because you're allowed one in a PG-13, it would happily pass at that level.
Yeah.
Happily. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like a PG-13 horror movie can be good. They usually aren't, because usually it means they're just watered down, but they can be, but it's not like the direction's any good. And the director actively makes the actors bad, worse than they are. I mean, Sarah Michelle Gellar probably is the best one, largely because she screams really well. Like, there's a few moments in the movie where she sees something, she just lets out a big giant scream, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, she's not bad. I don't think Jennifer Love Hewitt is that bad. I just don't think that her character was that good. Anne Heche was okay as like the weird. Was it the sister of?
Yeah, she's the sister of the dead kid who the killer killed on the night of the summer night of question. And she's kind of like weird, and it's just, I don't know, it just kind of plods along. It feels like, I don't know, it feels like someone just took a standard slasher structure and watered it down, and it feels that way as you're watching it. It just kind of feels like it's plodding through it, and because I don't care about the characters, it's not even that I don't care about them, I don't even like them. Like, they're unlikable. Because, I mean, most slasher movies, it's not like I deeply care about characters in Friday the 13th Part 6. Or whatever. They're just kind of, they're fine. They're kind of fun. Maybe goofy, perhaps. But this is taking itself so seriously the entire time. There's not a lick of levity or tongue-in-cheek or anything like that. Which is probably the big thing that this separated from Scream. And Scream's better directed anyway, but Scream, it knows what it's doing and it's having fun with the tropes and the things it's playing with. Whereas this, it's just cliches and things that I've seen in other movies done again. Like at one point they do the whole "the killer's one of the mannequins" like moment, and it's like I've not seen that before. Very good. Which again, it's just fine. It's fine if they do something I've seen before, as long as it's fun and as long as they do something with it. But they don't. It's really mundane, and there's no tension in any of the movie. There's no scares. It's just plod.
It feels silly, like a lot of the times when it's not meant to be. Like when Sarah Michelle Gellar is in that parade and she thinks she keeps seeing the killer, and it's like, oh no, there's just 50 dudes in this town with the exact same like raincoat and hat and
here's
like,
the problem with that. There's a problem with that scene as well, Tim.
Yeah.
How does she know what the hat and raincoat look like?
No idea.
She's not seen him, and yeah, she was told there was a hat and a raincoat. And if they played this scene where she's like seeing different hats and raincoats and getting creeped out by all of them, then fair enough. But she is recognizing the exact one the killer's wearing on several people, and up until this point, she has not seen him in what he wears. In fact, I think the only person who has seen him at all actually is Ryan Phillippe.
Also, it's not it's like around the 4th of July, so it's probably pretty hot. There's no rain in sight. It's a nice like sunny day.
That's a good point.
Everyone else is like in shorts and t-shirts, but it's just like it just feels so forced. Like, all right, let's put a decoy here, decoy here, decoy here. It's, I don't know. I couldn't help but laugh.
And then when she actually does see the real killer, and he's like on a roof and he's got his hook and he just kind of holds it up. There's like no atmosphere to it. There's no tension. It just it feels like, oh, there's the killer out in broad daylight, and he's clearly middle aged, so he's not the red herrings that have been thrown at us. So that's that.
And then also I like that. Before we see him, she's calling out to her boyfriend. She's going like, Barry, like there, over there. So he's going and like kind of roughhousing like all these people that aren't the killer, but also like no one else like around her in the parade or anything is going, hey, why are you yelling at your boyfriend to like go attack that guy? like no one else seems to have a problem with it or think it's weird or anything.
He also doesn't apologize. He tackles like an old man to the ground.
Yeah.
And then he just says, "Oh shit," and looks around to see if he can see the real killer. He never apologizes. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, there seems to be like a weird like way this town handles people freaking out. Because then later on, when her boyfriend's being killed on the balcony, and she's freaking out. It seems like people are actively trying to keep her away from the balcony.
In front of an audience. If you're watching this review and you've not seen the movie in a while, he gets killed in the same place where she was at the start of the movie when she's getting the crown. She's on stage. There's a crowd of people, and he's up in the balcony. Like if they were showing a movie, that's where the projector would be, up in this balcony. And he's up there, and she sees him. She's on stage, and she's looking up at him, and she can see him getting killed. And she starts freaking out and screaming, and like the crowd like basically holds her back. And the cop comes out, and he's like, "Now what's going on? What's this silly nonsense? Someone's getting killed." Sure, I'll check it, but I don't think they are. And he doesn't believe her. He takes her home, and then, I mean, honestly, she's the only one. I mean, obviously, you get the final girl moment on the boat with Jennifer Love Hewitt, but Sarah Michelle Gellar's character is the only one where you get a proper sort of stalking chase, like kill scene, where he's chasing her. She runs to the store where her sister is. Her sister gets killed, also a shit death, and it's. In fact, honestly, her being killed, because eventually when he chases her back out into the alleyway, and she almost gets to the parade, and she gets killed in like this pile of tires in this alley next to the parade. Honestly, it's the closest to having a good kill the movie gets, just purely because at least there's something in the idea that the parade's right there, but it's too noisy, you can't hear it. Now, other movies have done this better, but it's the one moment where I'm like, okay, there was kind of an idea of how to do something there, whereas every other one, it's just, no, stab with hook, without any style, without any panache, just stab with hook. Cut away before thing. So here's a complaint I have about the stupid characters. Once again, we keep coming back to this. Both as Sarah Michelle Gellar, she does it first, and then later on Jennifer Love Hewitt's character does it as well. Two times in this movie, the first time was bad enough, but when it happened the second time, I was like livid. I was like, what the hell are you doing? Don't be so stupid. They call out to someone and get them killed or hit. The second time it's not a death, but it could have been, right? So Sarah Michelle Gellar's in the police car, and the killer's like pretending to be like a broke down driver, and he's got his hood up, and he's like in there, and he's wearing his raincoat, of course, and whatnot. And cop gets out, he goes up to speak to him to ask if he needs help, because I guess he wants to be helpful to this guy, but the girl's screaming someone's been murdered. Yeah. No, you shut up, you're a crazy bitch. This guy clearly needs my help. But he goes up, and she realizes, she somehow recognizes the ring. I mean, to be fair, at this point, she did see him up on the roof with the hook. So, okay, maybe she does have an idea of what he looks like now. But she recognizes, she starts screaming, it's like, it's him. And the moment that really killed me here, in terms of, like, she distracts the cop, and then he gets stabbed in the back, and that gets him killed. That is stupid enough. But the bit that gets me, the peak on this shit iceberg. She shouts and screams at him. He turns around to see what she's doing. Why is she yelling? And the words that come out of her mouth is, "It's him. He's behind you. He's only behind you because you made him turn round." I couldn't believe it. He's behind you. He wouldn't be. He was in front of him. He could see him coming before. He could have maybe went for his gun or something. But no, instead he's looking at you. You dozy bimbo.
Yeah, I can't really defend that.
Later on in the boat, same thing happens again. Jennifer Love Hewitt went through the ice under the deck and found a dead body. She comes up, and at this point, because she thought Freddie Prinze Jr. was the killer for like a minute, and then he like raced out onto the boat because the killer's got her on a boat. He's lost his costume at this point. He's just a middle-aged man with a hat on, and he's coming for her, and he ends up fighting Freddie Prinze Jr. in one of the least exciting fight scenes I've ever witnessed in film. And there's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of like ducking and diving between the ropes and whatever else. He's fighting the killer, right? They are mano a mano on the boat. He's sort of ducking his hook and trying not to get stabbed, as you do. Jennifer Love Hewitt opens the doors, the deck doors, and goes, "Oh, what's his name? Ray." It's like, "Ray!" While he's trying to fight the killer, Ray goes, "Julie?" And then gets backhanded and he goes overboard. He goes off the boat into the water. And I'm like, really? Julie, you thought that was a good idea? To distract him while he's in combat. He is actively engaged and he... Oh my...
I mean, I'd put a little bit of the blame on both of these guys where they really should be focusing more on what they can see, what the immediate threat is. But yeah, it is definitely annoying that the only reason they...
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Freddie Prinze Jr., I'll accept that excuse. The cop didn't have a reason to think he was in danger.
True.
He thought this was just an innocent person who had broken down. I lost my shit when it happened again, because it was the exact same thing. Almost the exact same thing. I couldn't believe it. I was flabbergasted.
The people in this town, or the men in this town, are just very polite. If they hear, a woman scream, that is where their attention goes.
Aye. Which is why, if they're engaged in combat with a serial killer, don't scream at them.
Yeah.
You're not the one in immediate danger. He's the one in danger. Maybe you sneak up behind the killer and whack him with something. Like a proper final girl.
It was, I mean, it's kind of... It's such a quick, kind of stupid scene, but I did kind of like when, the killer gets his hand... I don't even know what you say, I guess, cut off? Whatever, like,
amputated.
Gets tangled with... Amputate, there you go, yeah. As it gets, like, tangled in the ropes or whatever and causes him, like, to fly up and get it cut off.
Yes, he conveniently gets his hand tangled in the ropes when he swings to kill, and then Freddie Prinze Jr. just sort of, unwraps the rope and it sends him flying into the air and his hand gets cut off, and he goes into the water. So we never actually see him die, we just see him lose his hand, which makes it very easy for him to come back, because he can just stick the hook straight into the stump. Like, just make a little thing that just, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the movie.
Other than the, like you said, the real shitty, like, last second jump scare.
Yeah, the epilogue.
Cut to 1 year later.
Again, which would imply that the second movie is actually not the next year. It's actually 2 years later.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to know if they address this little cliffhanger ending, or if they just ignore it and say it's not part of continuity.
I guess we'll find out.
Well, I guess we will. Yeah, because she gets a note thinking her and Freddie Prinze Jr. are in a happy relationship now. They're talking about ravaging each other in a couple of weeks when they get to see each other. They're so happy. And then someone writes in the steam on the shower door, "I still know."
Still no.
Very good.
Then something jumps through the glass, I guess it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I was to guess how the next one's going to write this off, they're going to say it was a prank that had nothing to do with the events of the plot. It was just a coincidence that the way this stupid college kid phrased this message reminded her of that.
Yeah, she got an invitation for some sorority thing, so maybe they're like, oh, this was a hazing, like, or something dumb like that.
There is some nostalgia here for me, because I did watch it when I was growing up, and I did like Sarah Michelle Gellar at the time because I was a fan, of course, of her movies that she was in, and
you can't think of any more.
I can't think of any more. But I really like the joke of always saying one of the movies and not the show. That you really want me to say it. You really want me to say my bit that I always say. I always bring it up. And I think there's something really funny about not bringing it up when she's actually in the movie that we're talking about.
I gotcha. I appreciate it. It's a funny bit.
Funny bit. I should have looked up her IMDb before we started, just so I had some extra ammunition ready to go. In fact, her name's right here. Hold on.
Oh, you could have said Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo. That's another one. Scooby-Doo's one. Yes, I was a big fan of Sarah Michelle Gellar, of course, because she was the voice of April O'Neil in the hit animated film TMNT. There you go, pulled that one out of the bag.
I forgot she did that.
Yeah. I'm really disappointed about a sequel to that because I really liked that movie. And then,
Yeah, it was.
10 years later, where we've got the Bay produce atrocities instead.
Damn it.
So where was I? Yeah, so it's got some nostalgia, but honestly, it is watered down. The kills suck. The killer sucks. The plot is convoluted and not fun. But the biggest problem, the characters are annoying, stupid, and flat out unlikable.
Yeah,
I don't like any of them.
Yeah, it's very lackluster. Nothing feels like there's no tension or really. You don't care about anyone.
It feels hollow. It kind of feels. It reminds me of maybe some of the movies that came out in the 2000s. Like the PG-13 Prom Night remake and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Has no teeth. But my memories of this maybe painted it in a better light because I saw it when I was younger and it was it was at the time and I didn't really know what good and bad was yet and whatnot. And I saw it a few times back then and I remembered liking it well enough for the age, but watching it again now, geez, it is not good. It is not aged well. I don't think it was good at the time either, admittedly. In hindsight, I mean, like if I had watched this as an adult when it came out in '97, I'm sure that I'd have felt the same way. Also, another thing that it does that really breaks... Now, this is not to say that other horror movies haven't done this, but I felt like this one did it far too many times, where it would go from what was supposed to be a scary scene to it would cut to like a really cheesy song playing over the next scene. It did it a lot, and it was very 90s. It felt very dated, and it really stuck out to me.
I didn't recognize any of the songs that they played, but you could just tell, like, oh, these songs are so 90s. Like, it was that kind of wanting to be semi-grungish, but not really poppy kind of thing.
The only one I recognized was the one that the girl at the talent show was singing towards the end, because that was like a more famous song, and she was butchering it, which was, I guess, supposed to be funny. At this point, I wasn't having any fun though.
Another scene that made me laugh when, towards the beginning when they're dumping the body into the ocean. First of all, surprise, surprise, it turns out that he's still alive, and yet they still kick him into the ocean. Like obviously they're kind of freaked out and stuff, but at that point, maybe we should try to get this guy some help. But he grabs Sarah Michelle.
Instead he grabs the tiara, the crown from Sarah Michelle Gellar's head, and she goes, "My crown!" And Ryan Phillippe goes, "All right then," and he dives in and he takes it back from him. He dives in just to get the crown and leaves him floating in the water.
Which, first of all, it's super dark at night, but we get a pretty good view of the water, and he must have it too because he's able to find him, and he struggles getting the crown back, because I guess this guy has like a super strong grip, even though he's on the brink of death and everything. But and it was so cheesy and unnecessary, and again, one of those things where it's like really, your crown, that's what you're worried about at this point in time?
I don't know. I remember it, just even that opening segment, like when they're at the beach and it's the Freddie, Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt are supposed to have this really romantic little moment where statistics say that high school sweetheart relationships are the most successful out of all relationships. Like, oh, where's the data to back that up? And he just points to his heart, and I'm just like, oh my, just go away. Like, seriously. Freddie Prinze Jr.'s dialogue is terrible, and his acting is terrible. He stood out to me as being the worst of the pack. Ryan Phillippe, I don't think he's a terrible actor, but he was pretty bad in this. That is largely probably down to direction, I imagine. But yeah, the girls are a little bit better, obviously. But again, the direction kind of kills anything that might have been good in terms of performance. Except the screaming. Sarah Michelle Gellar's screaming is on point. I will say that. So no, that's good. But yeah, I guess we should do some ratings.
All right. I don't even think I really have to think too hard on this one. I'm just gonna give it a 3. it's pretty bad, but I had a few chuckles at least. So I give it a few points for that, I guess. And even as bad as it is, there's still a little bit of nostalgia,
Yeah.
just in seeing like, oh, the clothes and remembering something as a kid.
Yeah, there's some nostalgia. Like I remember, even though it's a really bad song that's playing over it, like I remember, like as soon as it started, and it starts with this like shot going over the water as music plays. I was like, oh, I remember this. I remember it starting this way.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I actually did kind of like the setting.
the
Like,
small fishing town.
yeah, like I like small towns. I like boats, and I don't know, stuff like fishing and crabs could have a cool angle to it. I don't know, but
I do like
yeah,
small town
obviously it's not
things.
utilized, but
I do like small town things, but yeah, uh, yeah, I'm probably gonna go with a 3 as well. It feels about right. And honestly, it's not so much that it gets a few points for much. It's more that it's just not as terrible as films I've given a 1 and 2 to. It feels very
right.
watered down in Hollywood and kind of hollow and vapid, but it's never as offensively, infuriatingly bad as say like Bye Bye Man.
Sure.
You know, that was a 1 out of 10. This is a 3 out of 10. This is a couple of notches above that where it's kind of bearable. There's a level of competence at least. It's the direction's not good. Like it is very boring and mundane, but there's a competence where the story's making sense, and yeah, I guess that's worth something. For the most part, it makes sense. For the most part,
A somewhat interesting premise, I guess.
it's okay. I mean, like I say, it's not really that different to a lot of slasher movies where they start with the kid in high school being bullied and maybe being burned for some reason or whatever. You know, it's kind of similar. It's just they wanted to have the detective-y part of it where they're investigating it, so they had to make it a whodunit. And
I like though. I agree that's kind of similar. I feel like um and maybe I can't just think of examples off the top of my head, but I feel like usually we don't have stuff where, like the couple of main characters are the root cause of it or have like, like this secret about it. Like usually it's more like them, being in like the, exploring something they shouldn't, or, accidentally summoning something or whatever. But like this, like these people are the actual like root cause of it.
yeah, okay. Oh, excuse my yawning. I know what we did last summer's done me in.
Yeah.
But no, there you go. That's I know we did last summer. So yeah, I mentioned that I will tell you what the next vote is for the bonus episode in August. So patrons, if you're on Patreon, go to patreon.com/MelloFuzzTV. You can join up there, of course. I'll use this to promote that as well, rather than doing it again at the end. But if you want to support the channel, support the show and everything we do here, and keep us going, head over there and you get some cool bonuses. But of course, one of them is that you get to vote monthly for a bonus episode of Screams. And the theme for August's vote, and the vote is going to be up for all of July, so the deadline is literally the end of July, which is the 31st, is Vincent Price themed. They're all movies featuring Vincent Price. So the 4 options are The Haunted Palace, House on Haunted Hill, The Fall of the House of Usher, and Witchfinder General. So that's the 4 movies that are up for voting. So you can go over there. Patrons can go do that, and you can join and do that if you want. But yeah, so we'll be doing one of those next month, so you can go and check that stuff out. But otherwise, guys, that is us. So thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments below. Have you got fond memories of it? Have you seen the light? Because I've got a feeling some people will be like, "Oh no, I remember this movie. It was good." I'm like, watch it again. Come back to us after you've seen it with fresh adult eyes, please. But maybe you still like it. If you do, fair enough. I don't get it, but you do you. But that is us. So thank you very much once again for watching. Keep watching scary movies, and we'll see you next time.